Kicking off at number 5, SCP-2700. And really, this should be at the top of our list in terms of calamity, but we recently covered it in our cursed SCP items list, so no, get to the back of the line, SCP-2700. As we said in our other list, stock for stock, this item is potentially the most devastatingly powerful item in the entirety of the SCP Foundation's arsenal. As the record states, SCP-2700 is a complex mechanical device believed to be a vessel of sophisticated directed energy. The device itself consists of 3 components: the interface, the accelerator, and the core, and it was developed by the legendary Serbian physicist and renowned inventor Nikola Tesla. Yes, exactly, the Nikola Tesla. On the surface, the Foundation portrays this ingenious object as merely a miraculous relic left over from the legendary inventor's legacy. But as is the same with many things in the SCP Foundation, all is not as it may seem. To boil it down, SCP-2700 is a weapon of such immensely insane power that a single firing wouldn't just destroy all life on planet Earth, it would destroy all life in the universe. Well, I say destroy in the most tentative term because a better word would be reset. SCP-2700 behaves inversely regards to entropy, and if you fire this weapon, it would cause a chain reaction that essentially causes a reverse Big Bang. Maybe the universe would completely reset itself, maybe it wouldn't. I don't really want to find out. Do you? Coming in at number 4, SCP-2399. Now, it's important to note that there's a slim chance that SCP-2399 won't be a world-ending catastrophe after all, and its intentions are to simply land on Earth and usher in a new age of technological prosperity. But really, guys, would we ever want to take that risk? Because I wouldn't. In short, SCP-2399 is a massive alien continent-sized complex mechanical structure that was on course for Earth before it was caught in the gravity of Jupiter's moon of Io, causing it to become stranded on the gas giant, automatically activating its self-defense protocols, resulting in what is now known by astronomers as the Great Red Spot. Now, SCP-2399 constantly dispenses fleets of small drones that slowly repair it, and as far as the latest update goes, it's nearly ready for completion. The thing is, it's encased in an indestructible force field that the Foundation currently has no way of even denting or even scanning to figure out what the hell is going on underneath there. Their latest plan was known as Protocol Legionnaire, which essentially was firing a volley of nuclear warheads enough to wipe out civilization 1,000 times over. And guess what? Not even a dent. Whatever's under there has got the Foundation spooked and in all likelihood will result in the end of the world as we know it. Hey, that's a song, right? Next up at number 3, SCP-3003. If any of you have a fear of the uncanny, then this one's for you, because if the thought of being parasitically overthrown by a sentient alien bug sends shivers down your spine, then let me introduce you to SCP-3003, otherwise known as the end of history. Essentially, 3003 is an Earth-sized planet 208 light years away from our Earth, but aside from distance, is near identical to our own. However, it possesses a population of over 30 billion and is exponentially more technologically advanced than our civilization, down to one small but significant difference. SCP-3003 is controlled by a beetle-like organism that parasitizes human life and wants to bring Earth under its influence. Because of its ability to enslave human life under its hive mind, the planet of SCP-3003 has become highly advanced and is nearly at the point of becoming an interstellar civilization, where it will arrive on Earth and infect us all with its mind-controlling amoeba-like organisms. The thing is though, guys, the 30 billion humanoids already under its control are possibly the happiest people in the universe. They're healthy, they're happy, they don't partake in violent behavior and abstain from military conflict. They have a resistance to pain and diseases and are genetically engineered to be the best spacefaring species that they can be. But they also lack all semblance of free will and self-determination, so get the hell away from my brain, you damn alien bug. Swinging in at number 2, SCP-3007. Whew, this one's a doozy. And SCP-3007 is what is known in the Foundation as an info hazard, a key to class info hazard, which in other words means it's really bad. An info hazard by nature wants to be spread via knowledge and awareness, and as we all know, you can't kill an idea. Essentially, 3007 is a simultaneous dream that people have, which exhibits them walking through a strange world, not unlike our own. If they're injured in that world, they're injured in real life. If they die, they die. And there's an entity imprisoned within it that wants nothing more than to bleed out into our world to do the same. It's known as the Red. Now, there's a lot to this skip, and the canon surrounding it is very, very intricate, but essentially, the Red is an anomalous entity that attached itself to a highly advanced alien civilization that had reached space exploration and stumbled upon it. Over hundreds of years, it used this unfortunate civilization as its plaything, twisting and contorting them into monstrosities and warping their world for its own sadistic pleasure. And guess what? It wants to do exactly the same to our world and is slowly luring people to its awareness through the power of dreams. Currently, the only way to contain this spread is to terminate all people who become aware of the info hazard, and as far as plans concerned, there is none. Oops. And finally, at our number 1 spot, SCP-001 SDL. Alright, as far as fiction goes, SCP-001 When Day Breaks is one of the most masterful and horrifying stories told throughout the entire Foundation, and it's a testament to exactly what the SCP multiverse can produce. Now, there's no clear definition on what SCP-001 is, and instead there are over 30 different proposals which keep the whole thing ambiguous. One of those proposals is SDL, or When Day Breaks, and it gives a whole new meaning to Don't Go Into the Light. Essentially, SDL is an extinction level event where the sun has turned everyone on Earth into an amorphous goo, which still retains its sentience and essentially reduces Earth's population to malevolent flesh zombies. What is left is a bleak, inhospitable world for its survivors, people on the edge of existence, roaming the wasteland, trying to stay in the shadows and avoid the roaming hordes of melted flesh zombies. What makes it worse though is that the amorphous goo has a tendency to combine into each other, meaning that a large bulk of the 7 billion people on the planet have become burbling, breathing masses of sentient, fleshy goo. And they want you to join them to step out into the light and be melted by the sun. Whew.
Number 5 on this list is Y909. Y909 is just a mild byproduct of this creature that could ultimately end the world. Villains Wiki writes, the Foundation discovered the eel released a gas while eating and that this gas had powerful amnestic effects. They called it Y909 and chose to use it in their experiences. Thus, the area in which SCP-3000 resides is sealed off and regularly patrolled by Foundation personnel. No civilians are permitted to enter the area, and personnel must seek permission before having contact with this SCP. The Foundation submarine SCP-F Eremita is tasked with carrying out the Aztec protocol to extract Y909 from the creature. Aztec consists of the Eremita feeding the D-Class personnel to SCP-3000, causing SCP-3000 to excrete Y909. Divers will then be dispatched to collect the substance during 3000's digestive process, a gas that causes amnesia. So if this creature goes on a feeding frenzy and we're around the premises, boom, we all just forget where we are and what we're doing. Literally everything. We also don't know whether or not SCP-3000 can use this on command, or if it's just simply a byproduct of eating and it can't control it. But if it can control it, then we're in even more trouble. Also, on a separate note, the Foundation is currently harvesting this Y909 and using it for their own purposes. That's okay, fine, but imagine if it got into the wrong hands. Imagine if some terror group finds a way to put it in our water and the entire world just forgets where the hell they are and what they were doing. Human intervention could end the world with this one, and it could be totally separate from this creature altogether.
Coming in at number 4, SCP-990. And I love this skip because SCP-990 reminds me of both the Observer from Fringe and the conspiracy suits from the X-Files, except this guy is a little more forthcoming with his mysterious intentions. SCP-990 is one of the few items in their canon that the Foundation isn't entirely sure whether he's trying to help humanity or destroys all entirely. Currently, there is no known containment procedure for SCP-990 for one simple reason: he only appears in dreams. Essentially, he's a much more stylish Freddy Krueger, sorry Freddy, just with less claws and even less plastic reality. As the record states, SCP-990 generally appears as a human male dressed in a Cold War era business suit who appears to Foundation personnel through the power of dreams. So far, no members of the Foundation have encountered this guy in the real world, and if he corresponds to an actual physical human being, then he's yet to be found. Essentially, 990 appears with the intention to warn people of disastrous events, and anything that he warns of inevitably comes true. Now, the Foundation aren't sure whether he's actually causing these events or just being a good dream Samaritan, but his most startling revelation is the end of the world, and his warning is focused on a yet to be revealed SCP. I guess we'll just have to wait and find out. Next up at number 3, SCP-001, When Day Breaks. Now, this is an interesting one because if you know anything about the SCP Foundation, you'll know that their first entry in their archives, SCP-001, is ambiguous in its origin and is made up of over 20 different entries, all of which may or not be the real SCP-001. Sound a bit confusing? Well, essentially, SCP-001 is brimming with potential red herrings to keep the Foundation's motivations and goals a secret. One of these is SCP-001 SD Locke's Proposal, also known as When Day Breaks, and if it is a genuine entry, then we're all kind of screwed. In the worst possible way. As the record states, When Day Breaks is an Apollyon class object that due to its nature cannot be contained. It is the designation given to our sun after an undisclosed event resulted in over 6.8 billion casualties with the first 24 hours. 001 is the exposure to ultraviolet rays that upon contact liquefy living organisms, with the effect spreading until the entire organism is converted, visually being similar to melting wax. Essentially, if you step out into the sunlight during the events of 001, you turn into a gelatinous mass, and inevitably when you make contact with another biological organism, you combine and blend at a molecular level. Picture our world right now, but everything is made out of wax. I mean, everything. Then turn the heat up really high, and then everything wants to kill you. That's what SCP-001 will look like, and it's not pretty. Swinging in at number 2, SCP-2935. And conceptually, this is one of my favourite SCPs in the whole Foundation, although it's also perhaps the most bleak, so go figure. As the record states, SCP-2935 is a space-time anomaly that exists within a limestone cave beneath a cemetery near Joppa, Indiana. The anomaly in question is a nearly exact replicate reality of modern Earth in the year 2016, with one quite significant difference. All life, both biological and non-biological, as well as any sentient entities, machines, computers, and other lifelike phenomena, ended on April 20th, 2016. All life forms within 2935 suddenly and without warning expired sometime between the hours of 3 AM and 4 AM Eastern Time, the reason for which is currently uncertain. When I say all life, I mean all life. Even the alternate reality version of SCP-682, as in the hard to destroy reptile who can withstand any destructive effect, even he died. As it turns out though, there is a little bit more to this story, and it appears that the events of SCP-2935 happened after an SCP agent known as Keller entered this Earth from an alternative reality, but unbeknownst to him was himself an anomalous entity that when exposed to another version of reality brings about the end of all life. As SCP-2935 explains, Keller was caught in a time loop, and every other version of himself was destined to enter the same space-time anomaly at some point. To stop this, he nuked himself as well as the mobile task force accompanying him to bring an end to the time loop and stop the same effects spreading to our version of reality. What a hero. And thankfully the Foundation filled the hole with cement and just tried to forget about the whole thing. And finally, our number 1 spot, SCP-610. And of course it has to be the classic scenario, a deadly pathogenic infection that could potentially spread across the planet and bring an end to all life as we know it. Although that would be the kind scenario because it doesn't exactly bring an end to all life, it seeks to consume it and turn it into a fleshy amorphous mass of skin and limbs and eyes. There's a reason why this entry is nicknamed the Flesh That Hates, and you're about to find out exactly why. As the record states, on first look, 610 appears to be a contagious skin disease with symptoms including a rash, itching, and increased skin sensitivity. Within 3 hours of exposure, the disease will cause blemishes resembling heavy scar tissue that within 5 hours completely consumes the victim. The victim then appears to expire but will restart after several minutes, where the scar tissue on the victims then begin to move on its own accord and grow at a rapid rate. Victims have been observed growing extra limbs, elongating their heads, and splitting apart parts of their bodies where additional branches of flesh will grow. The thing is though, once infected, 610 seeks to aggressively spread itself over the nearest surfaced area, searching for other biological organisms that it can add to its mass. 610's only motivation is to consume the planet into one writhing, limb-filled mass of flesh. 7 billion people's worth. That's like an ocean's worth of flesh. Kicking off at number 5, SCP-2317. And I'm sure you'll all appreciate this fact, but this video is going to have a lot of jumbled numbers throughout because, you know, that's how catalog systems work, right? Well, let me introduce you to SCP-2317, which is the perfect way to demonstrate the levels of secrecy that the SCP Foundation operates. So much so that depending on what level of security clearance you have, the more you'll know about 2317, and the more you'll realize how absolutely screwed we'd all be if it ever got out. Essentially, SCP-2317 is a locked wooden door that leads to an alternate reality. Inside that reality is a demonic, anomalous entity that swallows planets whole, yet is supposedly locked away by 7 bones of another of its own species, binding it in a ritual that by all accounts will prevent the end of all existence. The thing is though, 6 of those bones are broken, and now there's only 1 of those bones preventing it from escaping. The Foundation goes to great lengths to fabricate a ritual which involves human sacrifice, which it tells its lower ranking staff will prevent said end of the world. Spoilers though, it doesn't, and all it does is serve as a way to mentally distract everyone from the inevitable end of all life. Whew, heavy stuff.
Number 4 on this list is the psychic abilities. SCP-3000, among its many powers and abilities, is believed to have some psychic powers. Similar to Cthulhu and how it operates, it's believed that this godlike serpent can talk to people telepathically. No one is entirely sure exactly how the process works or how the serpent chooses who to speak to, although it's pretty clear that proximity to the beast certainly plays a role, and if you were 3,000 kilometers away for instance, you shouldn't be in any harm's way. If you're close enough to see this thing with your own 2 eyes though, you could be in some serious danger. Villains Wiki says SCP-3000 appears to have psychic abilities as demonstrated when a Foundation agent named Williams was exposed to it and began smashing his head against the submarine window before dying while whispering, "There's nothing." This creature literally made someone else kill themselves by means of smashing their head against a wall. Safe to say it's pretty dangerous. But how could this end the world? Well, if this thing is just capable of getting inside our brains and making us do stuff like that, then there's literally no defense that we could put up that would stop it. Psychic powers and how to deal with them is way out of our capabilities as a species right now, and if this thing truly possesses the powers we think it does, then there's no stopping it. The only thing we do know is that proximity to the creature is important in who gets affected and who doesn't, which is a positive for sure, but ultimately, SCP-3000 doesn't need to mess with all of our minds to take over the world. If it made someone smash their head against the wall, then what's to say that it can't make people do other things? If this psychic ability can manifest itself in the form of mind control, then imagine how quick the world could end if this thing took over the mind of the president or something. Joe Biden now just does what SCP-3000 wants him to do, and if SCP-3000 wants to launch the nukes, then the nukes, they're getting launched. This is one of the scarier ways in my opinion that this beast can take over the world, cause there'd be literally nothing we could do to stop it. Number 3 on this list is Fish Revolts. We just looked at the psychic abilities that this creature has and how it pertains to humans, but what about fish? If we believe that SCP-3000 can confuse us humans and trick our minds to a place where we'll do what it wants us to do, then you must assume that the same can apply to fish. Humans are obviously far more intelligent than fish are, and if we can be manipulated to smack our heads against the wall to the point where we literally die, then I think this thing can control a few fishies as well. Well, think about how the world would be if SCP-3000 controlled all of them. At any given moment, it's estimated that there are about 50,000 merchant ships crisscrossing the ocean at one time. On any one of those ships, there will be thousands to millions of dollars worth of supplies and also tons of humans manning that ship. This is also just merchant ships that I'm talking about and doesn't even add in all of the privately owned boats on the water as well. It also doesn't add in how many people are swimming in the ocean or a natural body of water at one time. I have no idea how we'd ever find out those statistics, but one has to think that the number would be pretty high. Well, either way, every single one of those people, whether they be on a boat or swimming, they're probably gonna die now. Think about it. Every fish that is in the water, from a goldfish to a shark, can now be told to give everything they have at attacking us. If fish organized themselves and all attacked a ship and ate us, then they would in fact win. It would make crossing water literally impossible, and getting supplies would become extremely difficult. Number 2 on this list is sheer size. This one seems pretty obvious, but let me ask everyone watching right now. Do you think that you could take that thing in a fight? If you do, then feel free to leave a detailed comment describing your strategy, because I would love to hear it. I, for one, am going to be tapping out if there's ever a full-on fight with SCP-3000, because it is pretty damn big. There literally isn't a confirmed number right now, but SCP-3000 is estimated at being 600 to 900 kilometers in length. That's pretty long, guys. Let's pull up a map of Canada right now and zoom in on Prince Edward Island. A relatively tiny little province in Canada, but still a notable and sizable landmass nonetheless. That island, that is literally an entire province of Canada, at its longest point, end to end, is 280 kilometers. Meaning that SCP-3000 could be 3 times as long as Prince Edward freaking Island. There's over 150,000 people living on Prince Edward Island right now, guys, and it is far from as full as it could be. Now, for our European viewers, let's move over to Europe and make a comparison there. France, one of the bigger countries in the continent and home to just under 68 million people. At France's widest point, so east to west, it is 950 kilometers wide, meaning that SCP-3000 is just slightly smaller than the width of France, a country with millions and millions of people living in it. There's absolutely no way that we'd ever be able to take this thing in a fight. Oh, and for all those people saying, well, we can just nuke it, let's drop a bunch of bombs on it and it'll be fine. Well, it's believed that this thing is immortal, so there's that as well. And finally, number 1 on this list is hunger. As we just looked at, SCP-3000 is pretty damn massive. Being anywhere from 600 to 900 kilometers in length means that you're lugging a lot of weight behind you. So much weight that we truly can't even begin to comprehend it. Anyways, if you want to be moving anywhere with all of that weight, you're gonna need fuel. Lots and lots of fuel. So much fuel, actually, that the world might not be able to handle it. Okay, so a green anaconda is the largest snake in the entire world. This absolute beast of an animal is about 6 meters in average length and weighs roughly 550 pounds. This is a big animal, guys, and it is a snake that in very rare cases can actually consume an entire human being. On average, these creatures will eat once or twice a week, but have a big meal like a capybara or a wild pig. Well, I was never great at math, but let's test my abilities a little bit. There is 1,000 meters in a kilometer, and if we assume that SCP-3000 is 750 kilometers long, between 600 and 900, then that means that it is also 750,000 meters long, which also means that it is roughly equivalent to 125,000 green anacondas, meaning that it needs to eat 125,000 times what a green anaconda does. Let me ask you, do you think our ocean can sustain a creature of this size eating 125,000 times what a green anaconda does every week? How long until this thing eats literally everything that our ocean has to offer and the entire ecosystem dies? Its hunger alone could completely destroy the ocean's balance and ecosystem and leave the world with no fish at all, which then in turn would cause a domino effect that would ultimately end the world.